And good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. Good afternoon, Kun.
Yes, good afternoon, Ozzy.
This will be the first time we're working
first
together.
Time. I'll be inside.
All right.
With you here.
Well, I think you're going to find today's program very interesting. Yes, I have not been around for the last couple of weeks, but that's because I was out of the country. We're working on strengthening Caribbean working class solidarity. So we've been working on that, but I'm back here, and of course, wow, so much to talk about in just about 25 minutes, right? I saw in the headlines in the news, murder. So crime is just completely out of control. We have our education system still in a mess, healthcare, the judiciary. And you know what is interesting, Kern? Who really are affected by these things? Crime, the poor conditions in schools. The teachers' union tutor have always been complaining about that. Healthcare, you can't go and really get quality healthcare, especially if you're poor, in terms of the judiciary getting matters called. Well, don't talk about the criminal justice system. We see from time to time our young men being transported to and from the courts and prisons and so on. Who are affected by this? Because that's where I want to go with this program this afternoon. It's poor, ordinary people.
The man on the streets.
The ordinary man and woman on the streets.
Boy.
These things do not affect, guess who? The elites. That's who I want to focus this afternoon's program on, the elites. Because you see, we don't talk enough about them, you know. It's like they operate from in the shadows. They pull all the strings. And we don't seem to want to be able to talk about them or to start a question or challenge by, wait a minute, if crime, education, poor healthcare, judiciary, criminal justice system, these things are only affecting poor people, what give a certain group of people a certain privilege to sit on top and be completely isolated from the issues that ordinary people have to face every single day? Who are they? Who are the elites? Now, of course, I'm not going to call any specific names because, one, I have a pre-action protocol letter already against me, and two, a certain former government minister already reported me to the St. Joseph Police. But anyway, those things will not silence me here this afternoon. And I think we need to talk about the elites, especially in the context of the fact that in this current economic climate, workers are the only ones being asked to bear the burden of adjustment. And so I want to spend a little time on them, that plantation class. Now, if it is that our economy, and if we acknowledge that the economy, the structure of the economy and so on, is still a plantation economy in terms of simply exporting raw products and importing manufactured goods. If that's the case, if the basis of our economy is still the plantation, therefore, the very nature and structure and character of our society is still the plantation. Which is why, if you go back to the plantation, which is why crime would affect only poor ordinary people, poor education facilities in terms of schools, poor health care, an inefficient judicial system, only affected, of course, who? The descendants of slaves and, of course, the descendants of indentured laborers. And let me take this opportunity to wish everyone happy Indian Arrival Day and to salute the hard-working class East Indian brothers and sisters who are out there still in the vineyards. And I think this message this afternoon will resonate with all across the board in terms of this group, the small elite class, this planter class, descendants of the plantation class, who seem to be untouchable. All right? Now, there are three types. We have the traditional elites. These are the direct descendants of plantation owners. All right? Then we have what we call the emerging capitalist class. This is a group that emerged now to be multi-billionaires and so on in the last 20 to 30 years. And then you have something called the contractocracy. Those are persons who generate huge amount of wealth through government contracts. Not because of business acumen or because of innovative products that you can sell on a national, regional, international market. It's simply because they get government contracts, okay? As I said, I'm not going to call names, but I want, as persons listening to this program, whether you're at home, whether you're at work, or whether in your vehicle, I think just take a little time for the next 15 minutes as I speak to this issue. Take a little time to reflect on this particular topic. And I want to refer Trinidad and Tobago to something called the Global Pyramid of Wealth, which was done by Credit Suisse Global Wealth Data Book in 2015. This is 2015. Now, it has also been well established that the inequality gap in terms of those, the rich and of course the rest of us, has increased threefold since the 1970s. So we have this weird phenomena, this contradiction, whereby the world itself has generated huge amounts of wealth over the last few decades due to technology, technological advancement, and so on and so on. But yet still the gap between those at the top and the rest of us has actually tripled in that period. So this global pyramid of wealth, hear what it says, Kern, that 3.3 billion human beings account for just 3% of world wealth. That's half the world population. Half of the world's of human beings account for 3%. Then you have another 1 billion human beings who account for some 12.5% of wealth, which amounts to something like $31.3 trillion. So when you add the two, that's 4.3 billion human beings accounting for just 15.5% of global wealth. So the question I'm sure you're asking, and I'm sure the rest of Trinidad and Tobago asking, so where is the rest of this world of the world's wealth? Well, some 40%, 39.4% of the global wealth is amongst, guess what, 7.4% of the world's population, some 349 million people. But then it gets to what you call the golden pyramid, the golden triangle on the tippy top. 0.7%, that's 34 million people, accounts for 45.2% of the entire global wealth, $112.9 trillion. Can you imagine that? 0.7% accounting for 45. So if you add the 0.7 and the 7.4, you're talking about 8.4, give or take, accounting for 85.6% of global wealth. That is absolutely incredible. But that is what neoliberalism has delivered. And one of these days, I will really try to spend some time to talk a little bit more about neoliberalism. But this afternoon, I want to focus on wealth. Now, Trinidad and Tobago, that is a global pyramid of wealth because there's data. Wouldn't it be interesting to see what Trinidad and Tobago pyramid of wealth looks like?
Very interesting.
Wouldn't it?
Yes, for sure.
We have what, 1.3 million? I would be
thereabouts, yeah.
give or take. And I would love to see the breakdown of wealth in Trinidad and Tobago. I would like to know who would account for our top 1%. As a matter of fact, let's be generous. The top 10%. So as I'm on that, I want to refer to a newspaper article today. And it here's the headline. Ansa Makal chief moved to tears. Okay. And I think they're talking about the passing of a certain businessman. Okay. Moved to tears. So I thought, okay, let me read on as to what moved him to tears. Wondering whether is it that the many workers that they intend to send home and how those families are going to feel. Maybe. Let me read. Let me see. Of course, he was moved to tears in terms of the passing of his father. Okay. But here's the part that really hit me. He said, after regaining his composure, I'm reading from the Daily Express, okay, today's. So if you haven't gotten your copy and you think this is fake news, please get your copy of the Daily Express. After regaining his composure, he presented the group's financial performance for the year 2016. He reiterated that Ansa Makal's profit before tax for the year ended December 31st, 2016. Wait for it, Trinidad and Tobago. Wait for it. Surpassed $1 billion for the fourth consecutive year, while its revenue for that period stood at, wait for it, because they're sending home workers all over the place. The country have no money. People have to get wage freeze. Inflation going up. So wait for it. While its revenue for that period stood at $6 billion. And you tell me we have to accept this? We have to, have we become so numb that they have no problem boasting $1 billion for the fourth consecutive year pre-tax profit, and that the revenue surpassed it said it's well, you know what is interesting? It said it surpassed. Now you gotta understand the technicality. Now surpass could mean $1 billion and $1 or $1,900,000,000.
It surpassed the previous year.
It surpassed.
Right.
It didn't quite say exactly where it ended up, but it surpassed. Okay, all right. So I took note of that little technicality. And this is at the heart of the fundamental contradiction of Trinidad and Tobago in this 2016-2017 period. That you could have governments, Minister of Finance cry on the national television to convince us that we do not deserve a wage increase. We do not, here's the worst part. He can go on national TV and say to us, I raised gas once, no rat. Gas twice, no rat. I could raise it a third time. Well, he took note of our response to that, and you see he didn't. But the point is that, so you could do that which affects the poor, ordinary people. And when poor and ordinary people take a stand and say, hey, wait now, hey, what about me? Inflation continues to go up. Now, another study showed, in terms of inflation and wage increases, this is a very interesting point, that the percentage of inflation between the period like 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 coming up the road, inflation and so on stood at roughly between 7 to 11%, whilst average wage increase per year stood at some 1 to 2%. Now there's a gap, and the question is, who benefits from that gap over those years? And they have the audacity to come and say, well, listen, at the end of the day, times are hard. We're going through economic difficulties. We have to, well, they don't use the term tighten belts because they've become a little more technical. But to make us feel guilty for requesting a just due. But you know what is scary? Is not so much the fact that you can have the elites boasting of the fact that they have made billions of dollars in profit off of laborers, off of workers and so on. And that this same conglomerate is not, of course, saying in the same breath that it have subsidiaries whereby they are sending home workers, in the face of this, Kern, in the face of this, that they are sending home workers.
Every day you're seeing it all around.
Come on. And we are okay with that. But here's what bothers me, is that when some group of workers decide, listen, we're not taking that, that is nonsense. We will take a stand. The rest of us attack them. The rest of us have a problem with that. So we don't have a problem with the elites continue to extract wealth from us. We are okay with that. But if another group stands up, we have a problem. Now, take yourself back to the plantation. How many 100 and something years ago? It's not similar. When certain groups would have taken a stand against Massa, the others thinking, hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And in fact, we'll go and sell us out. When we had recently, and you saw that recently, when the President General of the OWTU told a multinational, he didn't say rig, he said platform, right? But of course, as he has pointed out several times, the word platform couldn't fit in the headline paper, so they said rig, okay. But take or whatever. You saw the avalanche of attack when people did not, and when I say that attack continues, Kern, because recently a former government minister making certain statements about it, and it shows you how deep rooted it is inside of us that nobody thought to think, wait, is BP leveraging power over us, as any multinational would, to extract more concessions from us, as did the French planters attempted to do when they came here in the late 1700s, to extract concessions in order to bring their slaves and to put down their plantation here. I mean, isn't it incredible? And we have someone who somehow decided that they own downtown now, okay, apologizing. So a member of the elite class apologizing to the multinational, and we still okay with that? You know, recently, and we have to be clear, you know, recently a certain editor, it was a letter to the editor, and to show you how bold the elite class has become, they can now write letters to the editor, no problem. So they had a problem. Here's their problem: attacking a school, a primary school, working class primary school, where working class children go to. And the primary school principal felt, listen, let's just do something special for the children, all right? Because these are kids coming from, you know, very difficult circumstances, the school itself and so on, some difficult circumstances. So let's have a little graduation in Normandy. You know, a big letter to the editor. But here who's writing the letter to the editor? Not the primary school children parents, you know. The woman starts off the letter to the editor by saying, my housewife, not my housewife, my housekeeper came to me to ask for some extra money to help pay so that the kids can go to, and had a problem with that because her kid, who was going to one of the private primary schools, had their graduation in the school hall. So working class children is like in and was okay to put that in black and white on the national press. That's how comfortable, because they are now convinced that we have become so numb, we have become so unconscious that they could put that and there will be no repercussions. That you can put that in a national newspapers to say that these children of the working class, why must they have a better graduation than my child? That's what you put in, and that's okay. So these are just some examples of what we're talking about. Now, the elite, their agenda is straightforward, which is to create circumstances, all right, and influence government policy that will ensure that they can continue to extract wealth from the poor. Now, they influence public policy through party financing, all right? So they finance political parties. Now, you have the contractocracy, that is the elites who acquired huge wealth through government contracts. They will finance political parties because they just want more government contracts. Right, straightforward. But the other elites, the emerging capitalist class, as well as the traditional planter class, they influence or they finance political parties to influence public policy to create situations that can erode workers' rights and ensure that they can guarantee that the system is set up and structured and maintained and sustained for them to continue to extract wealth and therefore continue to have dominion over these lands and have dominion over our Twin Island Republic. But why don't we talk about them? Why is it that we spend a lot of time fighting amongst ourselves on the plantation rather than identifying very clearly he or she who is oppressing us and unite, build solidarity to say, okay, here's what we want to get back some of that wealth because we created that wealth through our labor in the first place. And therefore it becomes very difficult. Okay, they have the wealth already, all right. So how do we as workers, ordinary people, extract, at least get something? It has to be through policies, economic policies that will show or that will bring some level of economic justice to ordinary working class people. And so that's basically what I wanted to start this afternoon to start a discussion and a national dialogue on the elites of Trinidad and Tobago, to identify who they are, to identify how much wealth they really have, they truly have, because as you're aware, whenever workers decide to take a stand in order to have an increase, a general wage increase, quick to post their salaries on the newspapers, but we don't see what the executives and vice presidents and presidents and CEOs, what their salaries are. No. And then we begin to fight amongst ourselves. That one working for too much. That one I find getting too much money. Why they want more money? Not thinking, but wait, hang on. Is it that this group of workers working for too much? Or is it that the rest of us just working for too little? Nobody thought to think of it that way. That's to show you how deep in our psyche they have convinced us that we are our own enemies. So that nobody sought to take a step back and say, wait. Where's the average salary in Trinidad and Tobago? And when you match that with cost of living, rent, when you have to buy food in the grocery, when you have to put gas in your car, when you match it with that, there's something wrong with that. There's a huge difference. And that people are really suffering. People are really working very hard to earn a certain amount of money that just get them by. And whilst people are working very hard, getting up 4, 5 o'clock in the morning to get your kids ready for school because you have to beat the traffic, spend 2 hours in traffic, reach to work 8 o'clock, have a supervisor who coming down hard on you because they had a bad day, and you have to, you go through that day, leave work 4 o'clock, face the traffic to go back home in order to cook and to do whatever else, having little or no time for yourself. Whilst you go through that, you collect your little money either at the end of the week or the end of the fortnight or the end of the month. By the time you pay out all your bills, and by the time you go buy the grocery, which price, by the way, going up, so you can't budget. If you budget $1,000 for groceries this month, by next month groceries going up, same things, $1,200, but your salary not moving at all. And then when you have cost of living allowance, which is supposed to help, you have the elite class saying workers don't deserve cost of living, and you have state enterprise like NP where they owe the workers actual cost of living, refusing to pay them because they don't believe that workers deserve the cost of living, because they want us to just etch out an existence. And whilst we go through that, you have Ansa McCall boasting that they make $6 billion in revenue. How? Because they have workers working, because you and I buying. So the ordinary people generating this enormous wealth for these elites, and when we try to take a stand, we are the worst thing. We don't, what is this? We're not a national interest. Well, I say, as I close off here, you know what? Time done, you know. Time done. The reign, and that time of the reign of the elites must come to an end. There will come a point and moment in time when people become conscious enough to recognize what is truly in their interest. And when they see other groups of workers fighting, they will not chastise them, but will join them in solidarity. And rivers or streams will flow into rivers, which will flow into one big sea of working class solidarity, where we as ordinary citizens would say that we have created the wealth in this great republic, and therefore we deserve our just due. Thank you very much, Kern. Thank you, Trinidad and Tobago, for listening to me in this installment of Take a Stand for Trinidad and Tobago. I was your host, Ozzi Warwick, and I look forward to next week's installment, because this is just the beginning as we march on for Labor Day, June 19th. So until next week, I hope everyone have a great and safe Indian Arrival Day, and we take the opportunity to reflect on the state of our republic and the role that we must play in order to bring justice. Thank you.